and then we will go from there. Thank you all. Go ahead, Donna.
Okay. So first, we will go over the program very quickly. As most of you know, the School Ambassador Fellowship is a unique opportunity for educators to bring their voices to the Department of Education. It's all about connecting what's happening in classrooms and schools with the policies shaping education across the country. This fellowship allows those educators to collaborate with ed leaders, share their expertise, and help make a difference for students and educators nationwide. As fellows, they'll get to work closely with the Department of Education staff, offering their perspectives on policies and initiatives that impact schools. They'll be a bridge between their communities and the department, ensuring educators' voices are heard at the national level. And throughout the process, they'll grow their leadership skills, build a network of passionate educators and policymakers, and they'll also gain a deeper understanding of how federal education policy works. So what kind of candidates are we looking for? Of course, we're looking for amazing educators. We are looking for educators who are passionate about making a difference. We're looking for people with at least 5 years of experience in many different roles: teacher, principal, counselor, district leader, and many others. Ideal candidates are great communicators, they're collaborative by nature, and of course, they're committed to improving education for all students. And so now I'm going to turn it over to Joshua to talk about this year's application and the selection.
Awesome. Thank you, Donna. So the first step, we actually go through 4 different steps to do the selection process. The first step involves screening the application, making sure that the artifacts are done, are there and present, and support the application. Those that support the application moves to the second step, which is where we are right now. They go through the peer review process. You will look at the applications or look at the capstone and the videos, the personal statement videos, and be able to provide scores. And then this third step is the virtual interview, followed by what many of you have seen or have been in yourself, which is the final selection and verification part. Next slide, please. So what does this flow look like? Review process, review prep, which is what you're currently doing. You will start registering for the application system, attend the peer review training, and then you start scanning the applications for conflict of interest between January 27th through the 29th. And then you will start doing your independent review, where you are watching the videos, capturing notes, and we'll talk about all of this a little bit later on, and preparing for your great panel discussion, reflecting on the scores, but you're not scoring them just yet in the system. You're just kind of putting it down on your notes. And then when you have your panel discussion, you will meet with your team or your group, and you kind of watch the videos, read the abstracts again, you discuss the strengths and weaknesses of each applicant, just to arrive at the final applicant score. And then between February 6th through the 7th, you're going to finalize your scores and comments based on the panel discussion. And then the panel monitor will review the submission and confirm the completion. So you have heard me reference to the panel monitor. You will have 1 panel monitor per group. This is the Department of Education staff member. Their close affiliation with the fellowship. They provide the moderation, but this year we are elevating that a little bit. Typically, the panel monitor just kind of sit back and watch the scores and the conversations happen. But this year, there'll be a little bit more involved. Then you have your role, which is the peer reviewer, external to the department, demonstrated the commitment to the educator leadership panel, the leadership development, and then the subject matter expert in education. And this just kind of kind of review of what the peer reviewers and the panel monitors are. The roles as a peer reviewer, you read, evaluate, and score applications against the scoring criteria. You summarize your review findings in the application system. The panel monitor supports the peer reviewers doing their review. They facilitate the panel discussion and ensure that the review panels maintain a review timeline, and then they review comments and scores before certifying the panel review as complete. Conflict of interest. So any close personal or professional relationships with a SAF applicant constitute a conflict of interest. Bias towards or against a particular individual, their stated viewpoints, or their affiliation also constitute a conflict of interest. Peer reviewers must alert Donna immediately if they have a personal or professional relationship with an applicant or uncertain that they can not conduct a bias-free review of any applicant assigned to them. Privacy, security, and confidentiality. Please do not discuss this information, the information in the application, with anyone outside of your panel review, your review panel or your panel monitor. Please do not discuss applicants with the department. Do not retain copies of the documents as part of the documents related to this review. Do not contact the originator. This includes social media, going to social media looking for the outside information, and printing materials is highly discouraged. If you decide to print applications, you must discard them properly, and failure to do so is punishable by law. And now I'll turn it over to Armand.
All right, thank you, Joshua. So everyone, I'm going to take maybe the next 15 minutes or so to kind of walk through the process of scoring the applications, and so those of you that have done this for us within the last year or two, probably pretty familiar with the Appian system. Donna sent you a video to that yesterday, and she's going to do a little bit of a review momentarily, but basically the application package it consists basically of four major components, right? And so there's the applicant demographic and eligibility information, and so that's just all the basic information about the applicant, plus all of the artifacts they submitted to give us more context about who they are and what they would bring to the fellowship. There's the video personal statement, okay, and it's kind of like the big shebang right there, where it's kind of more about myself, more about my personality, a little bit about what I've done and what I continue to do and the impact that I have. And so we'll talk about that momentarily. There's a one-page written project abstract, and that one-page abstract is a proposal for a project that they will do that will have an impact on their school or community. And then finally, there's the additional information such as the resume, cover letter, recommendation forms, etc. And so the two components that you all will be focused on will be the personal statement video and the project abstract. Those are the only two sections that are actually scored in this round. And so talked a little bit about what those are. We will break down over the next several slides what each of those things are comprised of. But the one thing that I did want to just say is that although you're not scoring the other sections of the application, it's very important for you to just at least familiarize yourself with the artifacts, the demographic information, the letters of recommendation, the resume, etc., because that's all going to give you just more context, into those individuals. And so we want you to have a really full picture. The video will give you, some insight, obviously, into the individual. The project abstract will as well, but all the other pieces help to put together that sort of mosaic that's going to really illustrate, the individual. And so let's talk first about the personal statement video. And what you see on the screen here in this interesting graphic is the scoring criteria. There's basically four criteria. We look at pivotal experiences, and we'll talk a little bit about what that means. We look at their contributions to their school community and to their school and district. We also look at the networks that they will leverage, as a member of the fellowship, and then also their impact to their community. And so those are the four criteria. Like I said, we'll talk about each of those a little bit. But what we want you to remember, you'll see that little note at the bottom, is just really, really important for you to focus on the scoring criteria for each component. A lot of times we have ideas about what makes an awesome educator or what makes an amazing, individual or member of a community. But really, we are scoring them based on these criteria. And so we'll kind of walk through what that looks like. And so Donna, I believe, sent maybe last Friday an email with either a link or an attachment of the rubric itself, and so you guys should have had an opportunity to look at that. And I hope you've taken some time to look at it because we're going to have an activity a little bit later where you'll actually watch a video and start to practice scoring it. And so Joshua has masterfully put that together, and so I'm actually really looking forward to that activity this afternoon. But in the meantime, I'm just going to really, really quickly go through each of these, selection or scoring criteria. And so what I want to try to do is kind of direct you to the slide. Again, I'm not going to go in depth, but what I want to do is just sort of point you to, on the left side, it really just sort of speaks to the language of what we mean by pivotal experiences. And what you'll see is that there are some things that are bolded, right? Describes pivotal experiences, skills they possess, right? Specific examples, how they intend to leverage these experiences. And so these are the things that you're looking for when you are evaluating against this scoring criterion. And then what you'll see in yellow, green, and blue these are sort of the tiers or the levels, right? And so if something is, we'll call it acceptable, you would give them 1 point. And what that basically means is that they've mentioned a pivotal experience or a unique skill, right? They've done one or the other. They didn't do both, but they did one or the other. And we feel like that's worth, a point. And then if you feel like it's sort of in the better range, we're going to give them 2 points. And the reason why we think it's better is because they mentioned both, right? They mentioned a pivotal experience. They also mentioned some kind of a unique skill, but they have to mention both in order for you to give them 2 points. And then the best example is where we're going to give them 3 points. And in that case, we're seeing extensive discussion, right? We're seeing multiple pivotal experiences mentioned. We're also seeing multiple unique skills mentioned, right? There's a clear connection to the things that they've experienced in the past and the work that they will do in the fellowship. And so try to kind of break down each of these scoring criteria in that way. So there's a progression. So you're never really guessing like, okay, well, I thought it was pretty good. Should I give him 3? And we're trying to make it very specific to make it a little bit easier for you. But if you look at the bottom of the screen, that red font, what we also want you to be able to do is use your professional judgment. We can lay it out only but so much. And so you're going to have to be able to use your professional judgment to really evaluate the significance of the skills they're mentioning. If someone said, I'm a really, really great basket weaver or metal worker, right? Like those are important skills. I love baskets and I love things made out of metal, right? However, maybe those aren't skills that are germane to the their work with the school ambassador fellowship, right? And so you just have to use your professional judgment to assess, the extent to which you feel like these are valuable skills for the role that they are trying to, embody within the school ambassador fellowship. And so I'm not going to dig into the rest of these. Change agent is another one. I will speak to that quality on or sort of the box all the way to the left. Again, here we're looking that they describe school and or district level contributions. We want them to show specific examples. And we also want to see that the things that they did, right, the contributions they made yielded significant changes. And, it's great to do lots of work, in a school. It's, for your district to be a part of committees or work groups or what have you, but we want to also see like what impacted those contributions and those affiliations have. And then network and resources. We're looking to see here that the applicant describes their active involvement in professional networks. we want to also see what their plan is to leverage the professional network, right, or networks. And then, of course, any resources that they'll be able to use to advance the fellowship in the department. So that's really kind of getting into networks. And again, acceptable, better, best, they still follow the same type of format that I described before. And we'll have a Q&A at the end. If you have any specific questions about any of these, we'll be happy to dive into that with you. But I wanted to give you a sense of the framework and also the importance of using your professional judgment when we walk through these. The impact and benefit, again, here, what's really, really important is as a fellow, right, being a member of the fellow, how will it benefit their school and or their district, right? And it's really, really important because we're interested in the fellow, we're also interested in their school and district. We want to make sure that this experience is meaningful, not just to them as an individual, but to their community as a whole. So we're really looking to find evidence of them sort of speaking to the benefit, the impact that their involvement in the fellowship will have on their school community, and again, how they're going to leverage those opportunities to really maximize the benefit. Okay. So I'll just kind of move on, and I want to talk a little bit also about the project abstract. And so the project abstract is another important component of the application. This is the other part of the application that you will be scoring. And so there's 4 components there, and it really sort of follows almost a sort of a logic model sort of framework, right? And there's really 4 pieces that we're looking for. The first is a problem of practice and root causes. We're also looking to see that they have identified the resources that they will need in order to be able to operationalize this project, not just to operationalize it, but to design the project and then also to operationalize it. We're looking to see that there's benchmarks, right? Like benchmarks from the standpoint of, how are you going to, measure success? How are you going to measure progress, right? But then also sustainability, right? Like what happens after the active work of building out this project is over? How do you sustain, the parts of the work that, that are successful? And so then, we're also thinking about the alignment with the priorities. And we'll talk about that one when we get to that slide. And again, just a note at the bottom is just to really focus on the scoring criteria for each component of the project abstract. And so the first item that I'll sort of speak to is the problem of practice. And, because we, at the department, we really, really do believe in, you've probably heard lots of discussion about evidence and evidence-based, learning, evidence-based instruction, evidence-based instructional practices, evidence-based strategies for grant management. The department is big on evidence, and we believe that in order for evidence to be gathered, it has to really start with there being a problem of practice. And so, the problem of practice we define as the sort of challenge that is faced by a SAF applicant's, school community, right? And it could be something that is unique to the applicant's community. It could also be something that is, it being experienced in their community, but also is being experienced, statewide, regionally, nationwide, internationally. And so, and we welcome very broad, ranging, project, focal points as well. And so then the other piece to this, however, is that we want to see that there's been some kind of a root cause analysis, right? Like some type of a examination of what are the causes of this problem of practice. And so, acceptable, better, and best. And, one point you're thinking, okay, they mentioned the problem of practice, but they maybe didn't really offer very much explanation, as to, the problem or its causes. And that we feel like that's worth about 1 point. You will probably come across applications where they might mention, or they provide an explanation of the problem. They might explain the root cause of the problem, and they might also describe the impact of the problem, right? But then we would think that a better or stronger response would be something that includes all of that I just described, but it also uses data to define the impact. And so those are kind of the levels right there, right? Like one where it's just saying, we have a problem, right? And this is what our problem is. And we feel like, identifying a problem is at least worth a point. But then the more information you're providing, or they're providing about their problem of practice and what's causing it, and the cause is backed by data, right? Like their at least hypothesis or their theory as to what's causing the problem is backed by data. Those are the things that will provide them with opportunities to get more points there. And so we hope that you'll pay attention to that. If you take a quick look at the bottom of the sort of the screen here in the red font. Again, we want you to use your professional judgment. And we realize that we can't define every term. So things like clear, like a clear description, or like they explain, right? We're going to have to rely on you to use your professional judgment to sort of decipher or determine whether or not they are actually explaining it, whether their explanation is clear, whether it's detailed, right? Whether they provide an example or the example that they provide isn't really an example. And so we're going to really kind of lean on you all to do that analysis and give that for us, because we can't provide you with the department. When we define things, we have to have them regulated, and that takes time, and we don't have the ability to do that. So we're going to really rely on your professional judgment to help us in that respect. And then resources and the remainder of these really kind of follow the same format. For resources, we really want to see, how what types of resources the applicant is planning to utilize in order to move this project forward. We also want to see how they're planning to target some of the resources they may not have access to, right? And so these are sort of like the look fors. And again, we have the three levels of acceptable, better, and best. And then benchmarks and sustainability. We want to see that the abstract identifies quality data benchmarks. And these are really like things that would be used in progress monitoring. And really the point here is that they're able to accurately measure and track successful outcomes, right? And so we want to see that there's some kind of a timeline, there's some kind of a plan for what's happening at various benchmarks in the design of the project. And, the staff team, we always welcome a project that doesn't end when the term of the school ambassador fellowship is supposed to end. It's always nice to see projects, that can move forward. And so while we don't necessarily give additional points for that, it's not built into our rubric. That should give you a sense that this is a project that maybe has a little bit of a broader scope and maybe is incorporating some of the things that, we would want to see at the better and best levels. Okay. And then the last thing that I wanted to mention, and so we left this, we kind of debated over the last couple of days whether we wanted to incorporate this into the training or not. And so it was already built into the slide deck, and it is one of the scoring criteria. However, we've recently, and I don't know if you guys noticed, there has been a recent administration change in Washington, D.C. in the federal government. And so the new administration has not yet had an opportunity to establish its priorities for discretionary grants and for federal, for federal formula grants. And so because of that fact, we are going to pull this section. We're attempting to get it pulled from the online application for this year. And it'll get replaced likely next year once we do have this administration's grant priorities. But for now, we're going to pull it. If we're not able to pull it from the application, then what we will just ask all of you to do, and we'll communicate it through your panel monitor, is just for you to give it a score of 3. Okay, and so everyone will receive a score of 3. That one nobody gets. Or I'm sorry, Donna, did we say 3 or 0?
We said 0.
Okay, sorry. So yeah. Thank you. So we're gonna instruct you guys to give it a score of 0, so that way no one gets penalized, for having not created it or completed it or what have you. So just want to make sure that part is clear. But we will communicate that instruction through the panel monitors if we need to. Right. So just a couple of really quick things. I think I just have like one or two extra slides here. What we want to make sure that you all are aware of are just sort of the important points related to assigning scores, right? So the first thing is make sure that you're using the entire scoring range. And that's really, really important because what we've run across, and not just with SAF reviewers, but even in our discretionary grant reviews, is that reviewers tend to really, really love whether it's a grant project or whether it's a school ambassador fellow's personal statement in their project abstract. They put a lot of work and a lot of effort into it, and so it's really, really important work to them, and it's just important, to the reviewers to make sure that gets reflected. So most applicants get really, really high scores. It's harder for us to differentiate applicants, candidates, if they all are sort of at the top of the range. And so we ask you to use the entire scoring range. We're also going to ask you to refer to the rubric and scoring guide first. And as I mentioned before multiple times, make sure you're using your professional judgment. And so the reason why you all were selected for this is, for one, because you volunteered to do it. And we appreciate you so much for that, but also because your subject matter expertise and your knowledge are just so valuable to us. And so we really do want you to utilize that side of yourselves, to help make some of these decisions. The third bullet that you see there is really, really important. A score of 0 means that the applicant did not address the element. Okay. So if the element is not addressed, they get a 0. You'll see underlined there, all reviewers have to agree that it's a 0 in order for a 0 to be given. And the reason why that's important is because if a 0 means that the thing wasn't there, and 2 out of 3 people thought it was a 0 and 1 person thought it was there, then the onus really is on that one person to be able to provide evidence and to show that it's there. And if that person is able to do that, then the other 2 people should be able to change their score so that there's some consensus about at least, not necessarily the quality of it, but at least that it was there. And then, of course, scores across reviewers shouldn't differ more than 2 points. And that's just, it's a 3-point scale, technically a 4-point scale if you include 0. But we shouldn't see more than 2 points variance. We should maybe see a score of 3 and 2 or a score of 2 and 1, but we shouldn't see scores of 3 and scores of 1. That would warrant discussion. And then finally, we just really ask you guys, sort of to the point that I just made, is just to be open to hearing the perspectives of fellow panel members. If you thought something was really of low quality, and one of the other reviewers thought it was high quality, I want you guys to have a conversation and try to meet in the middle if you can. All right, guys, I'm running low on time, and I want to give time for Joshua to be able to walk through the exercise with you. So I am just going to really, really quickly say that this slide is a guide to help you walk through a process to arrive at the score that you're looking for. And so it's really step by step. We always ask you to start at 0, and this is what I kind of mentioned about using the entire scoring range. Instead of starting at the maximum amount of points and then taking points away from your score for each scoring criterion, we want you to start at 0 and build your score. Okay, and so if you start that way, I promise you will always arrive at the number of points that's appropriate for the applicant. And I see some of you that are trying to read and understand this graphic. I promise you it is less scary than it looks if you take about 3 minutes after the training. And also Donna, Joshua, and I are happy to explain anything that doesn't make sense here. But really the goal is, if you look at that top set of blocks, they're all color coded to the acceptable, better, and best levels. We want you to start at step 1, which is you're assigning a point of 0, and then you're looking for evidence to get to a 1. Once you're at 1, you're looking for evidence to take you to a 2. And once you're at 2, you're looking for evidence to get you to a 3. And that's really a translation of what this entire graphic is telling you. So if you have questions, we're happy to answer that, but just, wanted to respect everyone's time today and not add an extra 30 minutes onto this training and take you away from other things you're doing today. All right, and then really, really quickly, I'll just talk about writing quality comments. And so do's and don'ts. do absolutely address both areas of the evaluation, the video as well as the abstract in your written comments. Okay. Comments should reflect the scores that you're giving. So if you're really glowing about an applicant and then you say that you give them a score of, I guess the total, um, 24 or 21 points, that would be, say you gave them a 10 out of 21, right? Maybe your score and your comments don't match, and we would ask you to, to do a little work there. Comments should indicate, strengths and weaknesses, and they should really, reflect one another across the reviewers, right? So if you are really glowing and effusive about an applicant, we shouldn't look at this comments of someone on your panel and see that they are really really negative. So we'd ask you guys to talk about that as well. And then, of course, comments don't need to be lengthy and they can be bulleted. So we're not asking you to write a lot of commentary. Probably, and I'll be totally honest, and Donna, Joshua, you can let me know if I'm overstepping here. But if you feel like I feel comfortable with your cleaned up notes as you're watching the videos being your comments. Like we are perfectly okay with that. It's very, very rare that we get a request for somebody to provide the reviewer's comments. And if they did, we tend to ask the reviewers to keep them pretty brief, and it's really the scores that help determine who's moving forward. The things not to do are like try to refrain from using I statements. A lot of times you can infer that there's some kind of a personal bias. And then Joshua mentioned this a little bit earlier when he was talking about confidentiality, but we sort of ask you not to use outside information to evaluate an applicant submission. So you shouldn't be looking at social media and just because somebody likes to party in Cabo a lot doesn't mean that they're a bad candidate for the school ambassador fellowship. I might even ask them to get me tickets or a room somewhere so that I can party with them. But yeah, so that's just we try to avoid using outside information, and then of course factoring other application components into your scores and comments. And so again, you guys are just focused on the personal statement and the project abstract. You're not scoring based on the artifacts that you see or based on the resumes and the recommendation letters that you see. And so with that, I'm going to turn it back over. Thank you. I appreciate your attention on that. Everybody actually seemed like they were pretty engaged in there. I thought you guys would get bored over those last 15 slides or so. But I'm going to turn it over to Donna to talk a little bit about the Appian online application system.
Thanks, Orman. I'm not going to go through the demo today for the sake of time, but I did send the video yesterday. So let us know if you are not able to access it. It's like 9 minutes. If you change the playback speed to like 1.5, it's even shorter. The most difficult part is actually registering for the system. Once you get past that, it's very straightforward. The one thing to keep in mind is that the first time you register and log in, you won't see any applications. I unfortunately can't assign them until you have registered. So once you register, like I will go in periodically to see who has registered, and then I'll assign your applications to you. But if you don't see them, just email me and then I can assign them right away. And so also reach out with any questions if you've watched the video or if you do have trouble registering. And then that's it for Appian, and I'm going to turn it over to Joshua so that we can practice using the rubric.
You can see the qualities of this applicant's personal statement video. Draw a connection to the scoring criteria and make in your notes. We are going to discuss this, and we're hoping to have a real natural and robust conversation around it to emulate what you're going to do inside of your panel discussions. And then be prepared, since we're such a small group, be prepared to share your findings in the chat or out loud and participate in a group discussion. Clear as mud? All right. Donna, and without further ado, our candidate, Michael.
Hello, I'm Michael, an intervention specialist at Highway Charter School in
Sorry. Can you all hear it? Okay.
Columbus, Ohio, where I support academically challenged students daily. Our school serves about 350 students, and I'm responsible for 275 with learning disabilities, ranging from kindergarten to 6th grade. I aim to leverage my experience in a fellowship to ensure students with learning disabilities are prioritized in public policy discussions. In my role, I collaborate with educators to improve teaching strategies, leading to better outcomes for students. This involves consulting with teachers to identify areas for improvement, offering tailored support, and implementing evidence-based strategies to enhance student performance. My goal is to create an inclusive learning environment that meets the diverse needs of all students, particularly those needing extra academic help. Beyond my daily responsibilities, I serve on the Membership Council for the Committee for Supervision and Curriculum Development, CSCD, contributing to its governance and strategic planning. I also stay active in national organizations like the National Organization for the Education of Minors, NOEM, the National Education Group, NEG, and the Progressive Organization for Student Success, PAS. My participation is not passive. I engage actively in their events and discussions. As a fellow, I aim to align our cohort's efforts with the strategic priorities of these national organizations. By integrating their research and best practices, I work to enhance the national education discourse. This strategic alignment is crucial for advancing educational innovation and contributing meaningfully to national education reform. As part of the School Ambassador Fellowship, my involvement will significantly benefit Highway Charter School. I plan to use the fellowship's resources to tackle issues like chronic absenteeism, teacher recruitment and retention, parent engagement, student morale, and resource inequities. By leveraging the fellowship's training and networking, I'll develop effective strategies, research best practices, and pilot programs tailored to our school's needs. I am committed to fulfilling all fellowship commitments and ensuring Highway Charter School's needs are represented in the educational community. I believe that my dedication, coupled with the resources from the fellowship, will lead to lasting improvements for our students, staff, and families.
Thank you,
Hello,
Donna.
I'm Mike.
So we're going to step in a moment. We're just going to look at two criteria sections. The first section we're going to focus on is the pivotal experience discussion. So reflecting, Donna, if you can advance once. Reflecting on the candidate's shared experience, what are your initial thoughts about what you heard heard from the applicant applicable to the rubric? So as a resource, we do have the rubric at the bottom so that it can help frame your discussion or frame your comment. So feel free to come off and mute.
I didn't hear a pivotal experience. He mentioned several smaller experiences, but I didn't hear him emphasize this one was a big thing that made me change my perspective or made me look at things differently.
I also did not hear the root cause or an explanation of the root cause of what may be the reason that he has such a large number of special education students and how he's attending to those in his community.
Other thoughts?
Yeah, I would say I agree with those too. I was wanting to hear maybe like why he was so passionate about working with that population, or maybe what drew him to work with that population, but I feel like I didn't really get to hear why or anything really deeper than what he does every day.
Mm-hmm. What he does every day is wonderful for those students, but it's not anything different than special education teachers do all over the world. I mean, that's the expectation of special education teachers. That's what they do.
Joe, I think I saw you getting ready to say something.
Yeah, yep. I did. I heard him say that he wanted to prioritize in policy learning support populations, which fits with his background. He mentions that he's involved with these national organizations. So the network's there, the leveraging capacity is there. But then when he goes into what he's starting to allude to in terms of a capstone project, he's bringing it back to the school level. So he's like missing an opportunity here to be at that national perspective and on that national platform by connecting his own network with what he could potentially do. And again, he just brings it back to that school setting again. So it's a little bit cyclic in terms of his presentation for me, and missed opportunities, to be honest with you as well. I'd love to be his editor to be able to like redirect him in that this is low-hanging fruit, but you're not connecting the dots for us. Do you know what I mean?
Yep, absolutely. And so if I was to ask you now, how would you rate this particular applicant based solely on the pivotal experience? We're not going to expand beyond this one criteria. We just stay right here. Would you give them a 1, 2, or 3? And if you get, I believe the chat is working now, so if everybody could drop it in the chat. We have a 100% alignment, which never happens, by the way. Like that, it never happens. So you can tell this is a training module. But in the same sense, the program office also deemed this candidate's response in pivotal experience. The discussion was a 1. We gave them a 1. It was acceptable. What he did mention was a single reference, right, to his contributions with helping teachers as a special education. I think Marianne put it so eloquently. She said what they're supposed to expect it of a special educator. But in his speech, he described the framework and responsibilities outside of just being the special education. So he did have that one experience to make this at an acceptable level.
Yeah, you know what it is? The language is there, but the logic model isn't.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. Donna, next slide, please. So thinking about the network and resources discussion. So to go back over the criteria again, the applicant's personal statement describes an active involvement in the professional networks that informs and supports their practice. The applicant described how they plan to leverage their network and resources to advance the fellowship and the department initiatives. Similar, analogous to the last one, reflecting on what he said, the statements that were there. What are your initial thoughts about what you heard from the applicant applicable to the rubric? And you can just share out.
He definitely gives a list of things that he is connected to, networks that he has available to him, and hints at what they might be able to be used for in his work. So for me, this is in that mid-range section, perhaps a 2.
I'm gonna give it a 2.
But definitely not a 3, because again, it's not streamlined.
And it's not specific. I would agree with everything just said, and that too, that he does mention, but it does feel more like a list, and really I didn't hear specifics of this can help me do this, or this can help me take it to this next level.
Yeah, he's like a 1+ for me. I mean, he does mention those networks, but then when he comes back again, it's chronic absenteeism, it's parent engagement, it's recruitment. He's all over the place at that point.
Anyone else want to share?
Clarifying question, can we do a 1.5 or do you want us to stay at whole numbers?
I'm going to let Donna answer that question.
Sorry to ask
coordinator.
I'm actually going to let Ormond answer that question, but I think we're going to stick to whole numbers. But I feel you. I get
and it's so funny
wanting
because
to do halves.
you're lined up on my screen. So it was like Josh passed it to you, and now
Yep.
you're, Annie, I think you're up next.
Pass
So
the
get
buck
ready.
to the next one.
Whole numbers, whole numbers.
Whole numbers. All right, you got
Yeah.
it.
I don't even
So
think,
Write
does
it
the
down.
system
Whole
even
numbers.
allow, Donna? Does the system even allow
That's a good question. I'll have
whole,
to
whole
check it out
numbers?
to see,
Whole
but
numbers.
yeah, we'll do whole
All
numbers.
right.
so taking that whole number approach, go ahead and drop your score in the chat. So it looks as if we are around the 2 range. Now, I will tell you there are this is the second part of this video. There are 2 different samples. In the first sample of the video, this particular candidate actually received a 3. And what made it different was he provided a wealth of resources and connected it. With this edited version, I took those pieces out to see if the differentiation of score was still hold true. And you guys did not let me down. So I do appreciate that. There was a missing connection there when it came to how you will leverage these individual organizations. We don't want you just to be involved in a lot of things to have this repertoire of membership, but we want you to be able to capitalize on those memberships to impact your cohort. So great job. Great job. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Donna for wrap up and next steps.
Thanks, Josh.
And I'm sorry, Donna, if I could just jump in, I just want to say, like, congratulations. You guys did a fantastic job. I thought that was awesome. I hope you enjoyed that little brief exercise. But you guys were excellent. That was really, really good.
Awesome. So this is the review timeline. So between now and next Monday or Tuesday, if you have your panel discussion on Tuesday, you'll be able to log into the system and review your applications. All of the panel calls are already scheduled and you all have received an invitation. We do have it booked for 2 to 5. But we are hoping that with the new and improved rubric that the discussions and scoring will be a lot more streamlined. And so your panel discussion might not take the entire 3 hours. I think also if you get a chance to preview the videos and the abstracts ahead of time, that will also help to use your time more efficiently when you're together. If you do want to go ahead and start scoring on your own, you can just save it as a draft and be flexible, knowing that your score might change depending on how the discussion goes. And again, your panel monitor is going to show the video so that you all can discuss it together. We're hoping that since we have the time blocked for the panel discussions and that you should be able to score right then and there, we're asking that all of your reviews are submitted by Friday. That's not like a totally hard deadline. So if you need more time, just feel free to reach out. But that's our goal. Next steps, I will email you your panel assignments and contact information. But again, you are already on the invitation, so you can see the Department of Ed staff that's on your invitation will be your panel monitor, and they will reach out to you just to introduce themselves and say hi. I'll email you the list of applications assigned to your panel, and we'll send a copy of this slide deck and the recording of this webinar.
At Donna Marianne
Oh, yeah.
asked how many, she missed the detail, how many individuals are they reviewing?
So right now we have exactly 12 reviewers for 4 panels. So if no one abandons us before next week, then I think 3 panels will have about 7. 1 panel might have 8. So I would just plan on having anywhere between like 8 and 10 applications to review. And like Joshua mentioned earlier, the first priority is to skim through the applications and make sure you have no conflicts of interest, whether it's personal or professional or anything like that. Let me know sooner rather than later, because I can just switch applications to a different panel, and email me right away. You've already received the invitation, and we're just asking between now and next week that you at least look over your applications and have a general idea of what you're going to discuss going into those panel discussions next week. And I know we're kind of short on time, but if anyone needs to drop, again, we'll send out the recording. And if you want to stay on, we're happy to answer any questions.
So Donna, just real fast, I'm trying to remember the platform from previous years. As we're going through the applications and conducting the review, keep everything at a save status, but not a submit status, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I actually have it pulled up so I can show you since I'm sharing. These expand on the left.
That's it. Yep.
So your panel monitor is going to play the video for you, and so you can discuss it. You can preview the abstract. Again, it's only going to be 1 page, so it'll be short. And on the right-hand side is where you actually enter your scores. And like we said, for the project abstract, this last one, alignment with priorities, everyone's just going to enter a 0 if that's still there. And you can save draft. So then when you see your home page, instead of not started, it'll say in progress. Once you submit it, it'll say submitted.
So I watched the YouTube video earlier today. I never got the email that has the token. I have an account already, but I never got the email that had the token and all of this to get into this specific system.
Yep, I will send that right after this meeting. So I'll send it like by 5 o'clock today. Yep, no, it's okay. I was going to try to get it ahead of time, but I didn't get to it. So
okay.
I will send it out today.
No problem. In the video, it says you should have gotten this email. And I was like, oh no, I got to be that person. That was like, I didn't get it. Okay.
I didn't get it either, Donna. If you can send it, I emailed you. Yep.
Yes,
Thank
I will
you.
send it out to everyone. Yep.
Okay, perfect. Thanks.
And thanks for watching the video already. You guys are on top of it. Okay, well, if that's it, thanks again for joining. We're so excited to have you. Again, we just appreciate you volunteering your time so much. We know you're so busy, and we just really appreciate it. And Orman, I'll just turn over to you to close us out.
Yeah, I think you said it all. We really appreciate you so much. We know it's a big investment. We know that everyone's got a lot on their plate right now, and so we have really tried to engineer this process so that it utilizes the least amount of time, possible, I should say. So that being said, again, we really appreciate you. We hope that next week's panel discussions will be really efficient. And that you'll be able to move through those applications. But please do, if you have any questions whatsoever, anything pops in your mind, if you're like me, and as soon as you hit leave meeting, that thing pops up in your brain, right? Like, be sure to reach out to myself or to Donna or Joshua. We will make sure that you get the answers to the questions that you need. Thank you, everyone.